Welcome to Art Talk Tuesday. We're in our third piece in the Asana series, so we're in the third of 15. One of the things I want to start off telling you is something that I forgot to tell you the first time we started with the first piece, and that is that I've been doing the pieces in groups of three. So there were 5 models, total of 15 pieces, so there was 3 pieces for each model. So the first 3 that I've been showing you have been of the artist or the yogi Rondi. They're not necessarily in order the way I'm showing you. I don't remember the order in which I did them. However, I do remember that they're all grouped in threes. And so you will also notice that the color palette is the same for the first 3 pieces that I'm showing you. They're of the same model and the color palette is the same. If you go back and look at the other 2 pieces, you'll see I'm using the same colors, different proportions, different places, different mixtures of the colors, but they are all the same palette. So I just wanted to show you that because it kind of gives a sense of continuity between each 3 that you see as a group with each model. So we're going back and talking about that later on as we go through the rest of the series. So piece number 3 out of 15-piece series, the final piece featuring the Yogi Rondi. Here we can see that the piece is actually 16 inches high by 20 inches wide. So we've got a more horizontal format on this. And you've seen this piece before, or you've seen this pose before, I should say. If you recall, I showed you actually a horizontal acrylic painting a couple of weeks ago with showing Rondi in the same pose. It was a different angle and it was yellow, similar palette, yellow with red or colors of red and then orange also in the figure here. And it was more dynamic because the angle was different. It was more of a catacorner, kind of 3/4 angle. And then I had the lines from the background coming together to form in the piece. This one I wanted to keep it a little bit more traditional. You can see it's very straight up, very frontal. You get a bit of a bird's eye view coming in, looking in here. As you're looking more down this way and looking up at the figure. See, as you can see, you can get the under part of the neck, under part of the chin here, which is slightly harder to see because of the beard, so you can't really see, but you would see the folds of the neck here if he didn't have his beard there. So we get inside of a front end worm's eye view. I'm sorry, not bird's eye. So front end worm's eye view. So the viewer's eye would actually be someplace down here looking up into the pose, as opposed to when we had the other one, it was a 3/4 view, which he was facing this way. So doing something a little bit more straight up. So in some ways, it's a little bit more boring. I don't do a lot of directly straight up stuff. It gets to be too boring, but occasionally I will. So even with this one, you see I kind of did the worm's eye, but not a full, complete worm's eye, because then you would be looking here at the feet and looking up. So that we've got here, same palette as with the other 2. Same pose. This pose is called garland pose, also known as malasana in the Sanskrit. We've got the yogi here seated deep in the pose. It looks a little different here because, like I said, you got the more frontal view of him in the pose. You can see once again, I want to create a nice solid foundation here. So I've dropped the back here, even the red, which is expansive color, wants to push forward, but I've kind of put the darker tones here to give that fade back, to give a sense that he is actually on a surface and ground the figure so it doesn't look like it's floating too much. Got the shadow here that I put in. And you'll see that this shadow is also very similar to the shadow that was depicted in the other piece in terms of the shape of the shadow. So we've got a similar light source, but we're keeping the figure more frontal. Feet extended out here, legs bent. Actually, you can see the legs are pretty long. You didn't realize how long his legs actually are until you really start looking at the way they're bent here in this pose. This is also kind of very traditional pose. If you look at people in indigenous cultures, you see a lot of squatting that people do in indigenous cultures. And so this is similar to that, this notion of being able to squat and just be down. And then also we've got the little orange band here, hands once again in prayer position, which would be this way, all right, across the chest. See the shoulders are pushed back. I kind of did a little bit more to leave some more depth here in the forearms, and then bring this in shadow so it kind of pops those forearms back so you realize they're in front, because if not, it would get a little flat in here and you wouldn't be able to see that. So I made everything a little darker down here to push this stomach area back, push the legs back, bring the forearms up front so you realize they're up front, and then drop some shadow back here in the back too so you get that sense of the hands being forward also. Slightly little brighter color here in the hands too to emphasize them as opposed to what you see in the leg here with the leg portion of the figure. So just a little change in the skin tone there. Then we've got obviously the head, neck up straight, spine straight, looking up. You can see his gaze is looking slightly up, not too far up, but slightly up. So slightly heaven-bound gaze here, looking up. Very serious look on his face here in this one. You can see that he's deep into the concentration, deep into the pose, looking off into what would be spiritual realm, hopefully. Then the background here, because this frontal view was so flat, I wanted to create something to kind of create a little interest in the background and to give it a little bit more movement, because you've got a lot of horizontal movement going on in this piece. If you look here, you've got this horizontal here, pushing back there. Then you've got a lot of horizontal, this coming up, drawing the eye out, the arms pushing here, the forearms pushing out. So you got this long horizontal thing going. So what I did was I kind of extended the figure. The head is longer than a person's head really would be. I've kind of distorted the head a little bit and the neck to kind of give some of this upward flow, because you get a lot of this going up and then coming out, this horizontal pulling. So I wanted to pull something up here. So I lifted the head and the neck a little bit just to give this a little bit more pull upward here because of all the horizontal movement. And then with this kind of shell-like design in the back, it kind of looks like it could be an orange or some piece of fruit, and then also looks like it could be a kind of a shell. So what I'm doing here is putting these round kind of more biomorphic shapes in here to kind of cut out some of that horizontality. So when you get up in here and start looking around, it's easy to get caught and all this, and your eye wants to drift off the page. But because you have this in the background, that gives you something to kind of pull you out, and then you get pulled back in, right? Going up here, begin to pull out. This motion pulls you back in. So that's what I'm trying to do. And just to create a little interest here in the background with the figure. Wanted to leave these edges nice and really rough. I just put some frisket on there and just kind of took it off, and whatever it did is what it did. And, wanted to leave it a little bit of rough, kind of more graphic. And then we're just kind of playing around with these areas here, repeating the same colors in the theme, as you can see throughout the figure, and just playing around with that. So that we've got with this piece. Once again, this piece, like all the pieces in this series, is valued at $1,000. You have prints available starting at 4x6, and I think they begin at 31 bucks. And this is available for sale if you want it. All you have to do is DM me or send me an email, or you can go right on the website and order it directly under Shop Originals, and it can be yours. Thank you so much for tuning in. Look forward to talking to you next week. Please leave me a like, a comment, something. Let me know that you're paying attention to these and that you're getting some from it. You all been quiet lately, but I understand it's kind of the holiday season, so maybe people a little distracted. But holla at your boy. Peace.